Welcome to the Lair, a place where interesting people you may know tell you things you didn't. So grab a chair and your favorite vice and get comfortable. There are no rules in the Lair, but there is Laura Babcock. You know her from TV, and she is not into media monogamy. Let's find out who else is in the Lair.
We have here with us in the Lair.
Yes.
We have here with us in the Lair. This is my soft open studio audience. We have with us here in the Lair, Graham Crawford, and I'm so glad you could be here. I know that your voice is letting you down a little bit today,
I'm afraid it is letting me down quite a bit. But
who did you say you sounded just like?
Brenda Vaccaro.
Brenda Vaccaro.
Which was a sex pot in the 1960s.
Brenda Vaccaro was never hot.
So
I don't know who that is. Who is that?
we have a laugh from the audience. But unfortunately, you have to be of a certain vintage to even know who she is. She kind of disappeared, I don't know, about 35 years ago.
Died from toxic shock syndrome.
Did she really?
Did she?
I don't know.
So, yes, my voice is not ideal, but I was really wanted to be part of this.
You know what? Are his levels good, producer? Yeah, your levels are fine. So don't
Good.
strain your voice, Graham.
Okay.
And if you need to pull the mic up, we'll just tell you to pull it up. But we have Graham Crawford here, and you're many things. But I heard about you kind of, it's kind of like a whisper of, oh, you got to meet this Graham Crawford. This Graham Crawford. Your name kept popping up over the years, mostly in the context of James Street South. Also in the context of, I always heard about there's this guy with this gallery with this crazy door. Would that be your door, Graham?
Well, I guess the door isn't so great. The window is a little crazy.
The crazy
yeah.
thing. So I always heard about there was this place on James Street South. There's this gallery. There's this window with all these quotes. You've got to go check it out. But then I would also hear about you in other circles that So I always thought you were a little bit of an enigma, Graham.
Oh, well.
Which to me is a high compliment, because
Okay.
it means you're not boring, right? Anyone who's enigmatic means that you can't figure you out in one stroke. So you had a successful career in the communications business.
Yeah, management consulting, actually.
Management consulting. And you have parlayed that now into, was it you who told me he's got enough money around to cause fights? Because you know everything about everybody.
Please.
You do.
Just because I'm kind of seeing his banker doesn't mean that I... No,
but what was
don't
the
put that on
expression
me.
you used? Or maybe you used it, Graham, or I heard this through the rumor. You have enough money to piss people off with? Was that the expression I heard, to cause problems with? In other words, to have fun with the local
Yeah,
scene.
well, I know I didn't say that, but what I do have is enough money not to be worried about being harmed by people's opinions.
And that gives you a unique platform,
Yeah.
not unlike some other people in town who have some money who are also very engaged.
Yeah.
It gives you a platform to make your opinions known.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that, regardless of how much money you have or how old you are or what you do, if you're a citizen in Hamilton, I really think you need to be engaged, whatever form that takes. So if it's just, emails to your counselor or, doing posters or banners or trying to organize, garbage crawls or things on the steps of City Hall. That's an engaged
But
citizen.
let's talk about the poster thing,
Yeah.
because you're management consulting, and yet you create these. It's a podcast, so people can't. It's an audio cast. People can't see your face, but just bringing up your posters, I see the smirk of pride on your face. Right? You create these posters which get kind of to the heart of the matter of any issue that comes up through humor, through some great cut and pasting or whatever your technology is. You had one during the election, the provincial election, about the Liberals that caused a bit of an uproar amongst the Liberals running. So you managed to convey very salient points in a very, pardon the extension of the same metaphor, but in a pointed matter. Your cartoons come out and they say a whole lot.
Yeah, well, I'm an old ad guy, so I like writing. I did write ad copy. I like ad copy. I still love it. 35 years later. So I think the role of humor in activism or public commentary is, it's often underrated. It's often misunderstood. But if you can kind of pull stuff together, kind of net it out, I think of my posters as advertisements. And so what do you have to do in an ad to make it successful? You got to take complex things, net them down into something simple, make them memorable, and post them. And so that's what I do.
But some of them, so let's just talk about them because I think they are remarkable. You did one during the Liberal campaign where you had, I believe it was Bob, the mayor, Bob Bertina, wasn't he not lined up with the Liberals?
Yep.
And so you used a Liberal campaign image and you put him in there, you superimposed him in there. And what was the line that it said?
Well, what I did was I took the Liberal logo, which is a font, it's colored red, and they had already designed this so that it had faces below. I took that, and this was when I felt Bob was getting a little tight with the Liberals prior to the vote. After the vote, I don't care what he does, as long as council is behind him. But to actually get that directly involved before the vote, provincially the vote has been cast, I thought was inappropriate. So what I did was I took Liberal and I turned it into the word unilateral, because I felt that decisions were being made unilaterally by the Premier on LRT. And I think Bob was making it easy for the Premier to say, well, you don't want LRT right now? Okay, well, we'll listen to you. We'll give you all-day go service. Well, we already had that. Everybody knows we had it, including Bob. But it was resold to Hamiltonians. That kind of unilateral dialogue, decision-making spin upset me. So that's why I did it. And it got some attention.
It did. But
remember, I have no money for this. I have no budget for marketing. So basically, this stuff is in my window.
So what you're doing is you're taking an engaged citizen's opinions and you're using your marketing chops of past, and you're using the vehicle of your street front visibility on James North,
exactly.
and you're tying it all together. But it becomes a pretty potent combination.
It has become, and much to my surprise, by the way, Laura, because
really?
As much as I hoped this would happen, it is a 12-foot wide building. It's one window. One store
but social
window.
media, though. It's social media. It's the posting on Facebook
Way
where I
better
see all your
reach
stuff.
with those who post, repost, and share.
Yeah, but I just joined Facebook like 4 months ago. Wow. Prior to that, it was all my window. Okay. You're absolutely right, Lauren. Since then, and I love Facebook now. For a guy who didn't even understand it,
Bye, Fred.
I think it's a marvelous tool. So you're right. I use it more now than I do my window.
As I have never had the privilege or wrath of a poster. Yeah. What I know is that
being on the poster.
Right.
Okay.
No, I am.
Because you certainly have the wrath that would generate.
Sure. Fair enough. Your posters are perceived by those who are in them to be extremely hurtful. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's kind of universal. That everyone you fuck with thinks they're being fucked with.
Isn't that the point of fucking
because
with
they
people?
are.
No,
because
no.
they are. I mean, that's the whole point of them, is I'm trying to create attention. Remember, if you don't have a $40,000 marketing budget and you have one poster in one window in one storefront in Hamilton, it better be interesting. So I have to challenge myself to do stuff that gets attention. So that's what I do.
Okay, but on that, you have to challenge yourself. It's not actually integral to your sales of your gallery. It's not even connected to it, right? But that's what I'm saying, is that you don't have to do any of this. You're doing it because it's not as though there's some commercial or some monetization of this.
Absolutely.
You're doing it because you feel passionately about it. So let me bring up another window that got a response. When during the whole Charlie Sheen winning craziness that we all experienced, you took, if I understand this correctly, I've heard it third party, but you took the mayor's picture, juxtaposed it with Charlie Sheen, and put the mayor's own quotes around that and said, is he our Charlie Sheen? I'm assuming you meant not drug addict, woman, whore, whatever, whore. You weren't saying that. You were saying speaks off the cuff, says a lot of things that are generated. Was that what the window was about?
That's exactly what it was about. I mean, of course it wasn't about hookers and drugs. It was about saying crazy things, or saying things that people thought seemed a little crazy. It did generate some feedback from the mayor's wife.
From the mayor's wife directly?
Well, I mean, Carol, who I've known for a number of years, came in to see me one art crawl and berated me for 20 minutes about the that I'd crossed the line.
Did she think you were suggesting he had issues with women and drugs? So
No,
she just didn't like
certainly not then.
Okay. So she just thought you were critiquing him as...
Yeah, I mean, I literally said to her at the time, Carol, surely you're not suggesting that I am saying Bob is, doing drugs and hanging out with hookers. I mean, this is a political statement about Bob's political statements. To be fair to both to Carol and to me, we had a good discussion.
Yeah.
We shook hands at the end. I mean, Carol wasn't happy that I wasn't going to take the poster down. But Carol is a very intelligent woman. We had a good conversation.
Grant,
Yeah.
I've just designed a poster,
Yeah.
okay? And it says Crawford, and all around it are all the posters of Bob Bertina.
Yeah.
And it says, and there's a picture of Bob, and it says, jerks off to trains. And it's a picture of you, and it says, jerks off to Bob, because you've done 827 posters of the man. Clearly you're obsessed. Hurtful, funny. Like, I'm not making a poster. I don't do that.
It's an artist off. I love it.
What I'm suggesting is, could you make your point without hurting people's feelings?
If that's as good as your poster.
I'm sorry. Come on, that was a little bit funny.
I don't even think it was slightly funny, but hey, but
You've done a lot of Bob posters. That's my only.
You've just been bitch slapped. That was funny.
No, but
that's
not.
Lauren, as I love to say, if you can't tell a joke, be one. It's
Two Jews walk into a bar.
Oh, but seriously,
Graham, you're missing my point, though, on all of this.
I do get your point, honestly. I mean, and it's not a crazy point. I've done a number of posters of Bob. Why? Every poster of mine has a catalyst that precedes it. I always react. They are always reactive, every single one of them. Something is said, I do a poster if I choose to do one. But it's based on what was said. I don't do posters for the sake of doing them. Fred, who was here, as Laura, said, it was here just moments ago for the Lair cast for 40 minutes. I did posters about Fred. Did
Fred respond to them the way
Yeah.
that Bob's family has responded?
No. Here's how Fred responded. Fred Eisenberger came into History and Heritage. There was nobody else there, as it turns out. I don't think he planned it that way. And he sat at my counter and he looked at me and he said, how can you and I work better together? Huh. Well, see, that's a class act. That's a leader. That's somebody who is articulate, who can understand the bigger picture. And what do you think my response was? Do you think I chased him out of there?
Of course not.
Of course not.
But Graham, here's my point. And my ill-phrased poster story aside gives you. You are a man who has a well-functioning brain and a well-functioning creative outlet, whether it be posters or your mouth or otherwise. Is this as helpful as you can be? Why aren't you making more of a... No, don't shrug your shoulders that it's not your obligation or whatever it is.
Okay, well,
does leadership come from a community member?
Let me answer your question then. What do you think of my op-ed pieces in The Spectator? What do you think of my articles in Urbanicity? What did you think of my articles in H Magazine?
Cable 14 appearance the other day.
What do you think of my Cable 14 appearance? What do you think of my History and Heritage Gallery? I do posters.
Perfect. No, I like that answer.
But what is that? 10%? 5% of what I do?
I want more.
But he's also the chair. He's the president of the Hamilton
more of
Club.
Chairperson of the Hamilton Club.
I want your name on the ballot. I want a real commitment to civic change.
Yeah, but on that for a second though, 2 points. I have to address this because the elephant in the room is going to stomp on me in a second. You are sitting here, a guy who has a weekly television show in this city, who spends his time not only being hurtful on occasion, calling for people to be fired, etc. It's true, but some would suggest that your contribution to the civic dialogue is one of the cynic that promotes debate. How can you possibly go after
I don't
Graham
have
for doing the
Graham's
same
skill
thing?
set.
Oh, shut up.
I speak as a fan.
Oh, please, shut up. So the point is that Graham has all these things that he does, but the one that gets particular attention is because it's a mix of humor and intelligence. As you said, these posters capture the attention. They're excellent for social media. But for you to sit here, Loren, and to criticize him for not being more proactively, productively engaged is a little hard to take. I'm just saying.
Last council meeting you attended, when was that?
Late November?
Okay, how many did you attend in the last 2 years?
That he wasn't speaking at?
Plenty.
Plenty? I never saw you.
From my perspective, too many. 6 to 8.
But how many were you involved with pitching something for the festival?
No, that doesn't count.
This is just in the galleries.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Because I don't pretend to have, gone to every one of them, but I've been to a lot of them. I've invested many hours. So I am engaged. I also, I put stuff, I've written many articles for Raise the Hammer. I do lots of stuff. I said to somebody recently, look, I'm not a one-trick pony. I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I never will be.
That wasn't meant as my accusation.
Oh, I know that. No,
So
I didn't.
What motivates you to do all this?
Well, Laura, you said career in communications. And as much as I said, yeah, I was a management consultant, it's always about communication. And
you and I are BFFs on that.
yes,
for sure.
we are.
We get it.
And I, you know that I admire your skill set, and I do, and I've told you that, and I've told others too. I've had positive reception, and I've also,
There are people out there who don't like me. Shut up.
And when Graham complimented you to me, I said, I'm kidding.
No, I appreciate that,
But
Graham.
even when I get pushback in the community, I don't cave, because I know a skill set when I see a skill set. And so why do I do it? I guess I do it because I can. And I don't just mean because I've got time, because I'm retired. But yeah, my skill set is a mixed skill set. My sense of humor comes from my mother. She had a wicked sense of humor. I loved my mother's sense of humor.
How big was her window?
Well, good question.
What posters was she sticking in her living room window?
My mother was a bank manager for CIBC. I don't think they would have allowed her to do.
No.
Her posters are about loans and GICs. But I guess if as a guy, I'm 57 years old. I'm retired. I retired.
You look good.
Oh, thanks.
Now you're hitting on her? What's going on?
Thank God this isn't television. I retired at 50 because that was my goal, and I did it.
Yeah.
And I want to have fun, but I also want to be energized. But you know what? I also want to energize others. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say that this old fat guy is having an impact on young people, who's encouraging them to get more and more involved in municipal affairs through my posters, through my writing, through my speaking at council. It's all possible. Not everybody has the same skill set, but for those who have a portion of that, my skill set, or have a huge skill set that I don't possess, I want everybody involved.
So where does that come from, that desire to be part of the body politic?
My father. My father was a Scottish guy, fabulous guy. I didn't even realize just how political he was until, kind of later in life. And I don't mean, I mean in my late 20s. He was one of those guys who was a bit of a pleaser. When you scratch the surface, he had an informed opinion on all kinds of political stuff. And I don't just mean local. That was a big aha for me. I learned more about my dad at that moment in time, and that continued. Both of my parents have passed away, and my father's been gone for, 15 years. I wonder what they would think. I think my mother might be horrified. I think my father might be secretly pleased because I'm out there pushing buttons.
But your mom would find the humor in your posters.
Oh, she would definitely get the humor. But as Laura and I have talked about before, mothers might say, but what will people think? And I think my mother would have probably thought that more than anything.
Well, it's interesting you said that because there was a letter that you wrote to council, and I get copied on a lot of letters people write to council because of the TV show and stuff. And yours said, do not dismiss this letter because of the author.
Right.
Like you went right in there and said, and the only other person I've ever seen do that was when I invited Stephen Lewis to speak to a conservative audience in Oakville, and he stood up and said, I don't pretend I'm amongst friends, but I hope I'm amongst open-minded people, something along those lines. So for you to put that right into the letter and say, I know some of you don't want to hear from Graham Crawford again, I thought that was both self-aware and also curious.
Well, in selling skills, that would be called forestall the objection. Say what they're already thinking before they say
Sure.
it.
Good
But
PR, proactive tactic.
It is in and of itself. But more than that, I know that many of them don't like me. I know that many of them don't want to hear from me. But I don't think that's because I say crazy things. People used to pay me $5,000 a day for my opinion.
Right.
In Hamilton, I can't even give away my opinion. Like, what is the problem with that?
It explains the window to me, though, because it forces someone to get the idea of what you're saying. You don't have to engage you, but it's in their mind, right? You can't look at something and not look at it, right?
Right.
It's in their mind 24/7 because the window's always there, even if I'm not. I'll tell you this, though. I've been there for 4 years. People come in, all kinds of people. True diversity, not imagined. And they want to talk municipal politics.
Love it. I'm going to hang out at your gallery.
Like, where else is that happening on a regular basis? I don't mean to suggest I'm the only game in town, but the fact is, I'm putting an 1117 poster in my window, and it changes. But people are compelled to come in and talk. So what that tells me is not, gee, your posters are fabulous. What it says is there's an enormous appetite to talk about this
People
stuff.
come in to punch you in the nose or to kiss you in the butt?
Well,
I know both, but
no,
like primarily.
it's an excellent question because, of course, the door's open.
Right.
There's no security.
Right.
95% are there to support a comment I might have made. I can't tell if that's when they walk in. 5% might say, gee, you're being a little tough on the guy. I had somebody say recently, you're cruel.
Lauren, 5 minutes ago? I thought it, no,
Yeah, okay. If 5%, it isn't even 5% because it's 5% of everybody who comes in. If 1% feel that what I'm saying is cruel, I'll accept that. But one of the things that I discovered when I came back to Hamilton in 2005, I think we're too polite. You guys aren't, by the way. I mean, I've watched your show.
That's something we've never been accused of being. Especially Laura.
Especially Laura.
I'm not as socially lovely as Lauren. When I dislike people, I dislike them to their face, in addition to behind their back.
But as a media and political junkie, I don't think you could call yourself that in Hamilton and say, I never watched the opinionators. It's crazy. I've always watched the opinionators since I came back. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It talks about current issues.
Sure.
And I would say the tag team you've got now is even better.
Thanks. You know, the O Show is born of the opinionators because Lauren and I have a particular chemistry. If you hadn't noticed, we respect each other to a point, and then we loathe each other. But it works. It makes good television.
Although Cable 14 is building a private room for me because I feel bullied, and I go there and I talk to Brent.
Well,
If I didn't take bullying so seriously, I would make a comment about that. I would bully you, but I won't.
I was at Cable 14 last week. You're the only name I saw painted on the parking spot. So.
Yeah, it's true, eh?
It's me and my unicycle.
But thank you for the compliment. And we're lucky that we're in that position. And for you to say we're not polite suggests to me that we're doing our job, which is to be candid, to take some risks, to take the heat.
Me too.
And you're doing the same thing, exactly. And we're lucky we have this forum. But when you were talking about, that that you can't give away your advice in Hamilton. A $5,000 a day paid consultant around the world. You come to this town, nobody wants to hear it. It's the profit in their hometown scenario, right? I mean, that's just the way that it goes. A lot of us probably do better outside of the city than we do in the city. But yet you have managed, as our producer was just saying, to create an audience for yourself with that window. And you've had different reactions, but it's not the sum of everything that you do. But I think that it is the thing that is so different. I mean, who else is doing that? Who else is putting into clever posters their feeling of the day? So let me ask you about how you feel today. Because the last poster you did, I think, I saw on Facebook, was a Peggy Gate thing.
You know, the Norman Rockwell ones.
Yeah, it was actually,
Around.
it wasn't so much Peggy Gate, it was actually triggered by, as I say, I always react to something. I don't start things. I may be not clever enough to start things, I don't know, but I'm good at reacting. I read the Hamiltonian responses, the typed responses
Oh, right.
that were sent to the Hamiltonian
Martina's article,
by Bob
or interview,
Martina.
yeah.
And two things struck me about that. One was his answer to question 4, which was basically, now that you reflect over the last 12 months, would you change anything? Answer, nothing at all,
Yeah.
period.
That question 4, I don't know if anyone else saw it, but question 4 made everybody go crazy.
Well, and
See,
that,
the answers were not too bad. I mean, I read it, but that
well,
was...
and that's not like you asking me here or asking Bob when he's sitting here. That's when these questions have been sent out to him. He has all the time in the world to answer, and he still says, I have nothing to learn.
Well, you know what? It's George W. Bush, when he was put on the spot in a press conference, remember?
The
They said, yeah, the great decider, that word he created. But they asked him at his outgoing press conference, was there anything you would change? And he said, not that I can think of, but I'll get back to you. And you're suggesting that this was not even an on-the-spot question. This was a pre-arranged, he had plenty of time to reflect, and his response came back, nothing at all.
Well, George Bush was not capable, obviously, of thinking on his feet. I'm not even sure he can think lying down.
You can't eat pretzels lying down, that's clear.
Oh, no, my God, Lauren, don't tell me you're a George Bush fan.
He's a conservative.
Really?
I
We,
know
we should
that.
all be as retarded as the President of the United
Could
States.
I send another
You
picture of
don't-
you wearing the Obama hat again for everybody who missed it?
As a communications and marketing guy, you didn't pick up on the folksy shtick that we had for 8 years from that man? Come on.
But it doesn't belie a greater intelligence
Really?
beneath.
You
It
watch
doesn't.
too much CNN.
It doesn't. He was being well fed
No
by
wonder people don't want your opinion. you
Exactly. Thank you.
people were being well fed. I mean, George W. Bush was not an intellectual heavyweight, but he had charisma. He understood how to connect with people, which is just as powerful. And he had people like Rumsfeld and Cheney and Daddy and all of Daddy's old buddies feeding him the heavy content that he needed to use.
Don't forget, Reagan was a lovable dolt, and he is God.
Right, exactly. God, well, because the Republican Party
Well,
can't find
I'll
that.
tell you, as a retired communicator,
See, you say retired, but you're communicating more than you probably
no,
ever did.
fair enough, but I mean, I'm not earning a living as a communicator. Ronald Reagan always impressed me
Yes.
as a communicator.
Yeah.
I never liked his politics, or I didn't like a lot of his politics, but I never, ever disliked his communication skill set.
We all remember Tear Down That Wall and A Shining City on a Hill, and we remember those moments, right?
Absolutely. And when the space shuttle blew up and he
Yes,
spoke,
yeah.
the guy was, you know what, I have to be honest, I have said this probably 20 times, and so I'll say it for the 21st time here, and it actually brings that point back municipally. I have said, I think Bob Bertina has the communication skill set of Ronald Reagan. And by that I mean people trusted him. They liked, he has a voice that is very skillful. But just like Ronald Reagan, although the difference is Reagan knew he didn't have content, so he hired the best. Bob has no content and doesn't think he needs it. But I'll tell you, if I were to give $5,000 worth of advice to Bob Bertina, I would say hire yourself a first-rate communication specialist and read what they give you, because you will do it better than any mayor we've ever had. But he won't do that.
You were sitting in the audience when Mayor Fred was here.
Yeah, I was.
And he made the same comment. And Loren and I made the same comment when Bob Bertino was here in the Lair cast. And it's not because he is deficient at communications. In fact, he's a god in this town. He's the morning man people were onto for 45 years. If he had, as I said to him, just walked into the sunset of, media celebrity, he would have been lauded for the rest of his life. He stepped into civic affairs because he loves the city so much.
He does.
And he has, you're correct. If he had a strong, clear message, his delivery would be better than anybody's. And in that same Hamiltonian interview you referenced, he brought up the Vic Cops analogy, saying people criticize Vic Cops on raising the downtown, but I choose to think of him as the man who loved the city, and I think he's trying to build up his own legacy in that kind of light, right?
Sure.
Right. But I mean, it was a clever juxtaposition to try to create. So to your point, absolutely. If he were sending messages that were clear and clever, he could deliver them like nobody else. And
he could, and one of the other answers he gave in that questionnaire. Question was, "What's your vision for the future?" And he began with this whole
and
pumpkin patches,
carriage rides,
farm animals, and horse rides for children.
I heard a laugh. You haven't read his answer, have you?
I thought he was going to say a fountain in the harbor.
No, he didn't go with the fountain in the harbor. That would have been a big vision. It was about pumpkin patches and children's farming or something.
That's pandering of the worst kind. It's simplistic. It's
he was connecting with Robert Pasuda's massive agricultural base.
But
Sure he was. Did you read the article?
But if a mayor says, "Look, we're losing too much agricultural land, we must stop it," I have a bunch of reasons to want to do that. One of them is just children's exposure to this thing, but more than that, blah, blah, blah.
So you're saying it sounded not this level of sophistication you would hope for from a leader of a civic agenda.
Well, it sounded exactly like what it was. Bob's old radio days, talking about cutesy things, and if you do that for 40 seconds and then go to traffic, people are left with, boy, that guy, he loves Hamilton. Bob does love Hamilton. But that kind of overly simplistic, sort of treacly nostalgia is not the way to answer a vision question when this city is practically in free fall. Financially, we have economic development issues, although thank goodness we've got some people who are chasing business, and I think they're doing not a bad job. Right. But we have so many issues. To choose that as your number one strategy for the future of this city is either delusional or misguided or pandering. And I don't like any of those answers. I want something that is more sophisticated. And by the way, so I grew up in Hamilton. I'm not looking for, Harvard MBA stuff. I just want stuff that's real.
But Graham, it's as if you very politely are calling our mayor a dullard.
Bob is not a dullard.
No, then that's the point I'm making.
Bob is not a dullard.
He speaks infinite languages, can play any instrument. He just isn't connecting. Okay. He's a very intelligent man.
But he's a great connector.
Well, he is an intelligent man. I'll give you that. I just listened to our former mayor speak for 40 minutes. And you know what? I not only recognized all the words, I recognized them in that order.
Sequence to it.
Right.
Wow.
I recognized cogent arguments, one being made and linked to the next one.
Okay.
That's not happening.
So that being said, not every mayor needs to be an intellectual policy wonk like Fred Eisenberger or a political strategist extraordinaire like Larry Deanne, or a shake the hands and kiss the babies like Bob, shake the babies, like Bob Morrow, or a grandpa to get us through amalgamation like Bob Wade. I mean, each one of them represents something different. And what Bob Bertina represented at time of election was, you heard Fred lusting for a retake of mayoralty. Larry Deanne's been chasing that chance for years, and then you had had Bob Bertina come in and say that if the choice is between the two mayors we just had, I love the city, everybody knows me, you can trust me, I'm a fresh voice, I'm a fresh face to the political game, essentially. He came in with a lot of hope, and his positions were popular ones. He essentially was for GO and for LRT and for downtown renewal. I mean, he was the downtown councillor. So he came...
Which is where he... Ward 2, he did the worst in Ward 2 of all the wards in the city in terms of his votes for mayor.
Interesting, okay.
Why did that happen? I mean, I live in Ward 2.
So you're saying he didn't deliver on some of those greater aspirations?
No. You know what I think happened was, I think we started to see the problems that citizens of Hamilton are now seeing. That's thin skin and a vitriol in writing and response that is inappropriate for the mayor of the city of Hamilton. It's certainly the people I've talked to felt it was inappropriate for their ward councillor. But when you take that citywide, it's a bigger problem. It's magnified. By the way,
even our producer, remember you got into a throwdown with Bob Bertina over email over the whole Lister thing?
Yeah, Lister. I was just wondering, that's true, but with the, was there an opportunity to see him between elections? Because with our counselor, we basically see quotes from him in the paper, and then it's election time. And we don't really have an opportunity to visit him. I know, did Bob do something in Ward 2 where you saw this? Did he write letters, give you something?
Oh, there are tons of people. I have some, but I mean, lots of people have in my neighborhood association, in the North End neighbors. They've kept the emails. They're not good, but I'll get, so what? I mean, so let's.
What did you say? They're what? What accusation did you launch there, Loren?
That there's not always necessarily good quality sober thought behind Councillor Bertina's emails that come late at night to random people. I've seen them as well.
Well, the timestamps are, could be revealing. Don't know, but you're right, Loren. I mean, there is a pattern. You
have somebody who's passionate and who does what any communications professional would advise their clients not to do, which is don't text, tweet, or email after 10 o'clock, right? So when you're in the passion zone, when you're in the not thinking professionally zone.
Where were you, Laura, when Terry Whitehead needed you?
Yeah, oh my God. But that's an example where he got blown out of the water for such an email, right? So you're suggesting, and I haven't seen it firsthand, that there's a pattern with the mayor as councillor and currently as mayor for speaking off the hip, passionately, at inappropriate times, in inappropriate ways. But I think people knew that about him going in. I think people who worked with him at the radio station knew that was Bob Bertina. I think he's proud. His last words to us in the Lair cast were, "I gotta be me, it's the only me I know how to be," essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but that was his last parting salvo to us.
Something like,
right?
I am what I am.
I am what I am, I am not gonna
you
change
can't teach
it, right?
chicken to be pork.
Yeah.
Or
So it's not like the guy is pretending it's not like he's pretending he's a Larry Deani politician or a Fred Eisenberger policy guy. So are we trying to make him something he's not? Is there an expectation for him to be something that we didn't elect? I mean, I'm throwing it out there because I have been hard on him the last few weeks because I think that the situation has been ridiculous.
Well, can I interject?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I think you've been factual with him in the last few weeks. And he doesn't like the facts.
Right.
Has not liked the facts in the last few weeks.
Yeah, let me correct myself. I have been factual. But I'm telling the perception would be from some that I've been hard on him. But I have been factual.
Well, when I do a poster and it's based on something that actually happened or was actually said, it's the messenger that's got the problem. Well, that's okay. I can handle that. I'm not looking for Bob to like me any more than I was looking for Fred to like me when I criticized him. I've said recently that I criticized Fred initially because I didn't think he was demonstrating the kind of leadership skills I would like to see or felt I needed to see in my mayor. But Fred shifted. He got better at it. I know he's been in politics for many years. He'd only been mayor once.
But so back to Lauren's point, though, about when earlier he was trying to cajole you, guilt trip you, push you into running, essentially staking your claim, right? If you're going to be the critic, why not be in the arena yourself? Is that ever a possibility, Graham? Are you ever going to say, you know what, enough of this sideline commentary, I'm going to get in there and affect change? Or do you feel as though what you're doing is the way that you're meant to affect that change?
Well, I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here with you, too, the fact that you have enough ammunition to say, well, hey, what about? See, I don't know that I'm affecting change, but I'm certainly affecting thought. I'm certainly affecting commentary.
Wouldn't you prefer to affect change?
But how can you separate the two? How do you know that
Well,
he's not setting in motion change?
Again, I mean, I don't want to replay what I said earlier, but my opinion.
Sorry, it's a 150-year-old
Lauren,
building.
stop it! Put that knife down!
We got the gladiator.
Somebody, please, stop this man.
Take that!
Yeah.
Poster of
Wow.
me, damn it!
He's only upset because you have not put him in a post. You know, he said to me the other day, Graham Crawford, the Spectator, hasn't done Graham, what's it, Mackay? He's like, Graham Mackay hasn't done a picture of me.
He's done my issues 3 times, but he's
hasn't
never
him.
done me.
So he's begging for you to turn him into a comic. Okay, sorry.
By the way, I should just say, those are the loudest rads I've ever heard.
Aren't they cool?
You know,
You know what?
they're
It just
remarkable.
reminds me of the part of Hamilton history, the Lair.
Oh, trust me. I mean, I'm a heritage guy. I love the fact that we're sitting in this amazing building
It's crazy,
right
eh?
downtown.
Yeah, it's awesome. Just take away the
Yeah.
address.
Yeah, no, indeed. Anyway,
So are you going to run? Are you ever going to throw your? Are you
Yeah.
ever going to get in the arena proper?
the emphatic answer is no. I worked my ass off all the years I worked, and most certainly all the years I owned my own company, which was 25 years. Long hours. I earned every nickel I ever made. And not all of it was easy, and it was quite difficult, certainly early on. So I'm not looking to start working again. What I do as a hobby. And, you know, why do people play golf all over North America, all over, you know, Florida and the States and so on, as a hobby? Because that's what they like to do. I don't want to play golf. I want to run a stupid little 12-foot wide museum on James North. I want to participate. I want to tell Hamilton's history. I want to have a website that shares that. I want to have exhibitions that are bringing people in from Toronto and Windsor and Buffalo and London, because there's coverage in the Globe and Mail about us, not about me, but about us. That's what I want to
Let me
do.
ask you this question. People don't want your $5,000 a day advice. I do. What is your $5,000 a day advice for Hamilton? Take away the cynic role for a second, or the critic role for a second, which you obviously do well. Because you're not just, and let me restate this because it's important as a club member. You're not just somebody who is on James North or part of a certain fringe community who's deliberately trying to, you know, raise awareness. And I admire that in and of its own right. But you also sit in established positions. You're the president of the Hamilton Club, which you don't get more established in this town than that.
Nope.
So you have a foot in both camps, if you will.
Yeah.
You bridge the divide. I find that interesting. So given that that's the whole of who you are, what is your advice for the city?
Well, my number one
I'm not
advice,
going to pay you, by the way. This
Yeah.
is a freebie.
well, my area of expertise or the two key areas of expertise were strategic visioning and leadership. I offered free of charge when I first saw the city's vision statement, which was developed with the mayor and certainly some members of council and Professor Bart from McMaster.
The $30,000 retreat?
$50,000
retreat, yeah.
retreat, which is not an unfair amount. I was making
Yeah,
that kind
sure.
of money
I
for that
understand
sort
the
of
pay, but
stuff.
What's the result?
I made literally millions of dollars doing this. I wrote an email to Chris Murray and said, based on what I've read, you're going to run into the following problems. You can fix them. There's nothing wrong with the vision. I'm not suggesting you change it. Let's have coffee. Free. He wouldn't have coffee. I was delegated to a junior communications officer, and as much as it may sound offensive to some, I don't deal with juniors. at $5,000 a day when I'm giving away my expertise. And trust me, this was international expertise with major corporations. I can't even get a coffee with our city manager, and I would be happy to give you guys a copy of my email because I've still got it. The problems I said were going to happen, they're in deep shit right now. It's the same stuff. I mean, part of being a consultant is recognizing patterns of behavior. That's why you get paid.
They pay us for that outside perspective.
Right, because you've seen it 50 times, and they don't want to be the 51st time.
Right.
So they pay you. When you want to give it away and just say, look, I just want to give you some advice. And I said very clearly, I don't want 5 cents. When you can't give that away. So fast.
Take the Laircast.
But fast forward 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. We're still trying to communicate this vision.
Right.
There was a presentation to GIC, which I monitored, not December 13th. And here's what they were talking about. We're not sure if we have the right values, too many values, or if we should have different values.
Painful.
And let me tell you, as somebody who made a lot of money doing this, that is unbelievable.
No, it's painful.
It's
It's
insane.
an identity crisis after all of that exercise.
But, you know, so
What would your advice be?
what my advice would be,
So I'm Chris Murray, or whoever it was at the time who wouldn't take your meeting.
but of course Chris doesn't want to meet
What's
with
that?
me. Chris doesn't want to meet with me,
Okay,
but
so let's
that's
do a
okay.
virtual meeting with Chris. Let's hear what you have to say.
You need to take that 4-part vision of to be the best place in Canada to raise a child, promote innovation, engage citizens, and provide diverse economic opportunities. There's 4 strategic elements, and you need to define each of those. What do you mean? Well, actually, there's 5 of them. Best place in Canada. That is the higher standard in the nation. I never would have recommended that as a consultant, but if that's what you've got, go for it. But now you're setting a national standard.
Right.
So the best place in Canada to raise a child. What do we mean by that? And how are we going to measure it? And once we have those in place, we then build a strat plan to make that happen.
Wouldn't they have achieved those during the vision setting exercise? How do you set a vision without setting the KPIs to go with it?
You don't.
Well, so how did they?
But we did.
Wow, okay.
So maybe we have a process problem. I don't know. But look, I believe that Bob Bertina, council, Chris Murray, the senior management team, and all 7,000 employees want to do the right thing. I really do believe that.
Yeah, not all of them. Most.
Okay. Just the people you hang out with, right?
Exactly, just like, yeah, exactly. You couldn't have said it better.
So how do you do that? And I think I have some answers. I certainly have some experience.
Give me the top 3 answers, and this is what we'll end on.
Well, fair enough. Because we don't have the definitions of those 4 elements, because we don't have the metrics that go with it, we don't have a vision. We can't operationalize a vision that Bob Bertina, for example, calls in as recently as the Hamiltonian answers catchphrase.
Right.
Vision is not a catchphrase. It's a strategic statement of what you want to have come true at a
Does
certain point.
anybody ever perceive it the way you're describing it now? When
All
I
of
hear
my-
that
all
Hamilton,
of my clients internationally did.
we're not a client, we're a municipality, and we say we want to be the best place to raise a child. What
No.
the hell does that mean?
But to on Graham's point, when I do this stuff with my clients too, the vision or the tagline or whatever is backed up. It's backed up by operational
It
decisions.
never
It's
occurred to
backed
me
up
that
by
the
all
city
kinds-
would have tried to back this
But
up.
the
This
thing
is just an
if
expression.
it all it is a floating tagline, it's not going to do anything.
Well,
Of course.
But this is the problem. I suggest to you that the mayor and most of council have never been managers. They've never had one person report to them.
Yeah.
Now, you can learn new skills over time. We have senior staff people.
Going through all their CVs and starting to laugh.
I know. What's wrong with running a video store? That's management.
Which means,
What? I'm just
Laura,
saying. What? Oh, you just said, what is the resume of council? I brought up one councilor's resume, and you guys are jumping down my throat.
But
Just because you call him the shadow mayor, Lauren, doesn't mean I can't bring up his resume.
But if you've never had a direct report, that means you've never been in a management position.
Right.
That means chances are you've never, ever been responsible for understanding a vision, implementing
give me
a vision.
A second. We've got some people in the room. We've got Monica. She runs One Concept and a couple of family massage therapy clinics. You've got lots of people who work for you. What do you think about what he's saying? Is it true that once you can't really understand how to manage something until you've had people you're responsible for who work for you?
Absolutely.
What about you, Marcus? You've got people on staff, do you as well?
Part-time, yeah.
Yeah. And Mike, you've got people.
Absolutely. You don't know what it is to manage until you've actually managed somebody.
Yeah, you can't. It's Lauren, you too. No, but I'm just saying that there are people in this audience who are all managers, who are owners of businesses or have a big team under them. They're of the same mind, right? So you have people on council who have to manage who don't have that background. Lloyd Ferguson certainly has that background.
Lloyd is without a doubt.
And also, so does our councillor on the mountain, Tom Jackson, ran some businesses as well. So there are some of them who do.
But,
Bernie at DePasco.
But here's a quick, when was the last time any councillor was responsible for creating, writing, delivering a report? I think for some of them, the answer is zero.
Right.
Certainly for our mayor, it's true.
Okay, so they don't have our skill set.
No, but they don't have fundamental skill sets to run a $1.1 billion corporation. Of course you surround yourself with people who can. All of us did that. I wasn't good at everything.
So why don't you run? And we've got to wrap this up.
The only skill set, electability.
No, fair enough. And I think that is
you
quite
could
a skill set.
You could get elected.
No, I could not get elected. But it doesn't matter whether I could or couldn't.
I think you could.
Isn't really the point. I don't want to get elected. I do want to be engaged in my city, no matter who the mayor is, as has been the case since I came back. Larry was the mayor when I came back, then Fred, now Bob.
So just to summarize your advice to the city, it would be to really define the metrics or the measurements around that vision so that we can start to operationalize it, organizing.
I'm hearing a statement, an implied statement from Graham well beyond that. Start electing some people who can manage and are worthy of being board members on $1 billion corporation.
Yeah, but why,
No,
what's the value proposition for those people?
Who then have the skill sets to be able to implement a proper
someone
vision.
came up to me during this whole debacle a year ago and said, why don't we have it's the first time bringing it up, but why don't we have like a dream team of business leaders in the city who all run for council?
Because they get their asses handed to them from guys like Crawford all the time. Who wants to run?
Oh, don't, Lord.
And the salaries.
And the salary sucks, yeah.
If I thought that I was that powerful. But I would say this, you don't need to be a business leader to be a leader in this city. However, if you have no business experience, at least be open to people who do understand the power of vision, the role of metrics, and the value of a strategic focus for 7,000 employees. And we don't have that. And it is costing us millions of, I would suggest tens of millions every year.
Well, I hate to end on such a dour note, but it is a realistic one, and you've certainly backed it up. It must be a compliment to your ability to engage, because we went way long with this Laircast. But you know what? My producer's been giving me time tweets here, but you know what, Graham? I love talking to you because you are engaging, and you clearly, whether it's your posters or anything else that you do, you have us all listening, and I think that's a pretty admirable trait.
Thanks.
So thank you very much for being here in the Lair.
I'm sorry for the voice.
And you know how much he's been jonesing for a smoke? Lauren doesn't go more than 20 minutes. Lauren doesn't go 20 minutes without a smoke. If he doesn't get to that window, he's going to shoot us all. So thank you, Graham. That was great.
Thanks.
Chats in the Lair is a Power Group production. Visit us at powergroup.ca or laircast.com, or check us out on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.